I feel like in one weekend of boxing, the summary is pretty much saying all good things come to an end. Errol Spence Jr.'s comeback was supposed to be one of the biggest feel-good stories in boxing. A former unified welterweight champion, one of the most dominant fighters of his era, finally returning after nearly 3 years away from the sport. Instead, it turned into something that was honestly difficult to watch. Not because Tim Tszyu did anything wrong. In fact, Tszyu fought one of the smartest fights of his career, even though he didn't look that great. It was hard to watch because you could almost see the effects of time, inactivity, and accumulated damage catching up to one of boxing's former pound-for-pound stars. And I feel like it's the same story when we look at Tyson Fury's fights and Anthony Joshua's fights. Let's break down what happened.
Yeah, for sure, man. I got my faculties intact. You know what I'm saying? My money is good and working for itself. So you know, everything's good, man. You know, I got a beautiful family, and I thank God that I'm gracious enough to lead this sport with my faculties intact. And my family's still by my side, and you know, everything's gonna go well down there. I have to say thank you to all my fans. I appreciate y'all this long journey, especially the ones who've been with me through it all. Y'all done seen, you know, all the trials and different tribulations that I've been through, and you know, I thank y'all. We've been on a long journey, but you know, you gotta be smart enough to end the journey when it's time to end the journey and not keep going. So I thank y'all, I appreciate y'all, I love y'all, and thank y'all for the support, and thank y'all for everything.
Coming into this fight, there were so many unanswered questions surrounding Errol Spence. How much did he have left after the devastating loss to Terence Crawford? How would his body respond after almost 3 years out of the ring? Could moving up to middleweight give him a second chapter in his career? Unfortunately, questions were answered in ways many fans didn't expect.
Think, man. Just they have it. Yeah. From the jump, you can tell that his balance was off. He was reaching. You know, just they have it tonight.
You know, do you think it was a layoff? Do you think it was a combination of things? Like, what do you think?
Probably all of it.
All of it? Yeah.
He didn't take the punches well. He was slow. Like, you could just tell that Tim was more fresher.
Was it hard for you to watch?
Kinda. You know, I really wanted him to do real well. He did what he had to do to finish the fight, though.
Said he's not going to fight in the ring anymore. Obviously, you think that's the right decision based on what you saw here tonight, right?
Yeah, he's been in a lot of wars. You know, with his fighting style, come forward, take some punishment, dish some punishment, and try to break somebody down. That type of style, you know, it don't even go so far.
I saw your tweet saying that the body language just wasn't there also.
Yeah, like I said, you know, he was all balanced, you know, and he just didn't have it tonight.
Tim Tszyu defeated Errol Spence Jr. by unanimous decision with scores of 118 to 110 and 2 cards of 117 to 111. But those scorecards don't fully explain what happened inside the ring. To Spence's credit, he actually started the fight well. The jab looked sharp. The straight left hand landed. He was investing in body shots just like I predicted he would. And for a few rounds, it looked like maybe the layoff hadn't affected him as much as expected. There were flashes of old Errol Spence in that fight. The pressure fighter with elite timing, the technical sound southpaw that broke opponents down over the years. But Tim Tszyu never panicked. He looked calm. He kept walking forward behind a high guard. He stayed patient. And every time Spence paused, Tszyu answered with hard straight right hands. He wasn't trying to win every exchange. He was slowly downloading information. Then the fight completely changed. Around the middle round, Tszyu began controlling everything. His pressure became relentless. The right hand started landing with frightening consistency. He mixed shots to the head and the body beautifully, honestly speaking. Around round 7 in particular, it felt like the moment the fight slipped away from Spence was halfway through the fight. Tszyu was splitting the guard with straight rights, landing right hooks, uppercuts, counter jabs, counter strikes, and consistently touching the body. Spence was having a lot of body shots, but the effects you would see when Spence lands on Tszyu was very different from the effects you would see when Tszyu landed on Spence.
I wasn't the way I hoped it would go. You know, it was a tough fight, a long fight. You know, but you know, it was cool. You know, was able to go 12 rounds and you know, I finished the fight. So it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. So, you know, much respect to Tim. He's what I expected. I mean, he's what I expected. He was timing real well, and my timing was kind of off.
Was that the 3 years off or
I mean, it could be. I mean, I'm not going to use that as an excuse, you know. Tim did the same tonight.
Spence's punch output noticeably dropped. His timing wasn't the same. His legs weren't carrying him out of danger. Instead of controlling the center of the ring like he used to, he found himself backing up more and more. That's when the long layup became impossible to ignore at that point. You simply can't replicate championship level timing by training. There's no substitute for live rounds against elite competition. You cannot do anything about that, and that was one of the issues.
I came back because I came back, you know, went 12 rounds. I came back because, you know, we in an era where people are scared to fail. We're in an era where everything's on social media, everything's getting recorded, and, you know, people are scared to jump out and do things and dare to do stuff because they're scared that it's gonna get posted and people laugh at you and things like that. But the same people who laugh and make funny jokes on social media and stuff never really done anything with their life. So, you know, that's where it's at, because I'm sure, you know, people have things to say and this and that, but I'm sure they wouldn't have the guts to do what I did, you know, come back and fight a quality opponent like Tim Tszyu in his backyard and go a whole turnaround and put on a great show.
And after nearly 3 years away, it looked like Spence was fighting not only Tim Tszyu, but also the ring Ross. That's honestly what it looked like. Here's where Spence deserves respect. Errol Spence never quit in that fight. Even as Tszyu continued landing the cleaner punches, and as the momentum swung completely towards the Australian, Spence kept trying. He kept throwing, he kept looking for openings. That's been one of the defining traits of his career. But his toughness has never been questioned. It really has. But at the same time, it's kind of the style that has made him vulnerable.
Man, there's no reason to fight, man. You know, I asked a lot of questions tonight for myself personally, and you know, going 12 rounds and, you know, realizing how long that 12 rounds was, you know, it's time to hang them up, because that 12 rounds isn't that long, but it was a long 12 rounds tonight, so it's time to, you know, to hang them up.
Unfortunately, toughness alone isn't enough against an elite fighter who's getting stronger as the fight goes on, and that's what Tim Tszyu looked like, right? Same thing with Terence Crawford. I feel like Spence didn't really change that much, because I've seen a lot of people talk about how, man, this doesn't look like the same Spence. The car accident had a lot of effects on him. Maybe true, but I don't think the fighting style changed that much. I think Spence started running into fighters who were taking advantage of his mistakes. Sean Porter took a lot of advantage in that fight against Spence. It was kind of close, honestly speaking, but Spence outdogged him. Of course, Terence Crawford did the same thing. One of the masters in counter striking took advantage, and Tim Tszyu read the script and knew exactly what to do. So I'm not among the crowd who's saying, oh man, it was totally because of the car accident, you know, all these things, because honestly speaking, a lot of people were picking Spence to win this fight, right? When I made my prediction, I said Tszyu was gonna win, mainly due to the inactivity, honestly speaking, right? And the wear and tear, the father time. The guy wasn't in his prime anymore. The age just says it. So that's just the objective fact. I was rooting for Spence. I wanted him to win, but objectively speaking, you cannot downplay 3 years off fighting against an elite competitor who has been active. Yeah, Tszyu has taken a lot of damage in his recent fights, but still, the activity comparison is just a lot. Now, if you look at Tim Tszyu, this was arguably his biggest victory in his career. After some setbacks over the past couple of years, many people questioned whether he'd be able to get back into the conversation of boxing's elites, right? And I feel like that question was answered. He looked disciplined. But to be honest, Tim didn't look that great either, like I said. Even though the fight became one-sided, I feel like he didn't look like his prime self and should have gotten the finish.
About the performance you had, were you happy with what you did in the weekend?
No, I think I can do better. I think I need to let my hands go a bit more. I could have. I felt like I could have stopped him. I felt like it was there for the taking. But look, I'm pretty happy with beating a legend, Errol Spence, in one of the biggest fights of Australian boxing history. You know, it's pretty cool. I don't think it's sunk in yet.
But he had a path to victory and he executed his game plan almost perfectly, for being honest. Maybe that's what he did. I don't know if Tim Tszyu decided to take it easy on Spence, right? Or if he just couldn't finish Spence, because I feel like there were a lot of opportunities. Either way, I feel like that made Tszyu not look as good as he's supposed to, in my opinion. At the end of the day, none of that matters. None of that matters because Spence retired with grace. I'm glad he retired. I think that was the right decision to do. I like his post-fight comments and his speech, and I believe he's made the best decision for his career and his health. A lot of people, including me, saw this coming. I just didn't see how he was going to lose this fight and keep going on. It only goes downhill from here. Look at Terence Crawford, retired on top. It's not a lot of times we see our favorite fighters retire on top of the game. Spence retired with 2 losses, gracefully so. Doesn't change anything in his career. In my opinion, he's going to be a Hall of Famer in the sport. So I'm glad he made that decision. But just like the trend of seeing our favorite boxers being quote unquote down bad, for lack of a better word, we have to talk about Anthony Joshua, man, because Joshua making his return was, you know, something we're looking forward to after his horrendous accident, which was fatal for his friends after the fake fight with Jake Paul. There's a lot of questions with Joshua's career. Of course, we want to see Joshua versus Fury, which we're going to talk about later as well. But Joshua's return was nothing short of dramatic. Joshua was dropped twice in the opening round against Christian Panga, leaving many fans wondering if another shocking upset was unfolding. I was thinking that fight was about to be over, because normally when you watch Joshua and his fights and he gets knocked down, he gets wobbled, he doesn't really come back from that, if we're being honest.
I'm stronger now. I'm gonna come. I learned a lot. I learned a lot in that moment. It's going to take a lot to stop me. Yeah, I want it. I told you, I took a year out. Obviously, I changed a lot of things. Had the Jake Paul fight, and this is my comeback fight. So the reason why I took time out is because I wanted to get my life back on track for moments like this, that I'll be ready. Like, if your heart and soul's not in fighting, moments like that, you won't get back up. Yeah. No way. It's too tough. Yeah, but I'm good. I'm in a good place. That's why I was smiling. I was like, let's go.
Do you think that shows your love for the game when you can come through fights like that?
Yeah, just my focus, where my head's at. Definitely. You know, it was a testing moment, but I came through. I'm happy.
But in classic heavyweight fashion, Joshua recovered and came back to score a second round knockout. It wasn't perfect, but it kept alive the long-awaited dream fight with Tyson Fury.
There's a reason that we put contracts together. There's a reason that AJ employs lawyers. There's a reason that me and him sit down and have endless conversations to make sure that every move is correct. The only way the fight doesn't take place in England is if Anthony Joshua and myself agree to it, because we have a legally binding contract that took a long time to negotiate. So as far as we're concerned, there's nothing to really talk about. We follow contracts, the deal's done, the fight's done, it's signed.
It is signed.
Signed, you signed it.
Speaking of Fury, he also didn't look good as well. I didn't even watch his fight against Maruz because that fight was in Thailand. I think it was on air or something like that. I wasn't really interested, if I'm being honest, but I heard it was probably his poorest performance in his career. Even though he won by stoppage, he looked washed. I saw clips of it. He looked old, he looked slow, he keeps looking worse in his fights. The fight before that, against Makhmudov, he kind of looked washed as well, and it made me feel like, okay, I think I'm picking Joshua in this fight against Fury. But then I watched Joshua fighting a no-name, with all due respect, and it looks like his chin isn't there. So we're getting a washed version of AJ versus Fury, but better late than never, I guess. I'll be making a separate video for that, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. But hats off to Tim Tszyu for a good win. Hats off to Errol Spence having a fantastic career, putting his life on the line for our entertainment. Props to him. I'm happy he's retiring in good health, at least. You know, watching great fighters get old is one of the toughest parts of being a boxing fan. Errol Spence Jr. gave the sport years of unforgettable performances. Whether this is the end or simply one final chapter remains to be seen, but he's retired. I've accepted that. I hope he stays retired. But boxing is in a weird place, man. Very tough to watch, if I'm being honest. We have Errol Spence, who has retired, looked slow, looked washed, if I'm being real. Anthony Joshua looks like he doesn't have a chin anymore. Honestly speaking, Tyson Fury looks washed. You got Usyk losing to a kickboxer. It's like, bruh, a new era is here and we have to accept it. But let me know what you think in the comments. What you think about Joshua versus Fury? You think it's too little, too late? Or are you still fully interested? Who do you think wins that fight? Like I said, I'll be making a separate video for that. What do you think about Errol Spence's retirement? Let it all in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, help out a small channel with the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel as I do breakdowns every single week. See you in the next one.